Hello everyone, Kyrex here. Uh, I just wanted to let you know that I spent last night in the hospital, actually. Um, I'm okay, I'm back home, but I did not come out of this unscathed. Get down, Winkles. Basically, last night, I'm posting this on the 17th, this happened on the 15th. I'm referring to it as last night because it's only like 3 o'clock in the morning. Um, it was around, let's say, 7 o'clock, and I had been listening to my headphones on the computer and realizing that my headphones were starting to fail a little bit. You know, like, headphones tend to do that. You put them in, and sometimes they'll stop in one ear unless you jiggle the cord, and they were getting to that point. And these were little dollar headphones, so I decided, hey, let's go down to Walmart and pick up some more. And I grabbed 3 of them, and while I was up there, I started feeling a little woozy, because I hadn't really eaten that day. So I grabbed grabbed a 2-liter soda and some little snack cakes. So I have something I could eat right away, plus a Snickers bar. Something I could eat right away that would give me a little energy to get home where I could make dinner. So I sit up there, I eat a couple chocolatey things just for a quick burst of energy, let them sit in my stomach for a minute, hop on the bike, head home, same path I always do. Um, Now, remember, we just had a hurricane, and that's going to be real important in a minute, because apparently, unbeknownst to me, the hurricane had knocked over a tree, or maybe someone cut it down, but it's probably the hurricane, just from how splintered it looked. And it was hanging over the fence. And people have said, oh, you should have had a light. Well, the light wouldn't have shined on this thing. And even if it had, I didn't have good brakes on this, and even if I did, I couldn't have stopped in time. Or you should have worn a helmet, and the helmet would have protected my head, but really not much else. I hit this thing going, what for me is a full speed, or at least full cruising speed, which is not as fast as some people's cruising speeds. I actually tend to meander a bit. But it was fast enough to knock me just completely off the bike and daze me. I don't think I lost consciousness, but my vision was fuzzy. I wasn't breathing for a couple seconds. I was screaming at myself to breathe. Once I started breathing, I started, taking stock of my situation, trying to sit up, looking for my phone. The first call I made was to my roommate, obviously, because why wouldn't I? But he was out of the area. He'd been visiting a friend at the beach, and there was no way he could get me. Because usually, when he goes down there, he does it to drink, and he can't drink and pick me up, so don't put any blame on him. He didn't know this was going to happen. My next call, I believe, was to my friend who didn't pick up because he was at work. Or actually, it turned out he was on his way home driving and he didn't like to talk on the car. My third call was to my aunt, who basically told me to call 911, and I did. And ambulance came and picked me up and took me to the hospital. Before we went to the hospital, they examined me and saw that I had a pretty nasty gash in my head. Nothing major, It wasn't like, oh my god, you're in critical condition. But it was enough that they said, if you don't stitch this, something bad's going to happen. And I'm paranoid of needles, so naturally I put that off for as long as possible, but they took me in. I get wheeled into, I don't know what it is. It wasn't the ER because I went there second, but I get in this area, and there's other beds in there. And my aunt and my friend both get there because once I get a hold of him, he's like, "Oh, I'll be right down." He had to eat first, but he would be right down. And before anyone gets on his case about why he was eating first, I made it very clear that I wasn't in critical danger, that I did need him down there. So it wasn't like, "Oh my God, you're in fucking code blue" kind of shit. My aunt got there first, then he came back. He'd actually brought his wife, who I don't normally get along with, and he's like, "Is that okay?" I'm like, "Oh, that's fine." And then my aunt went back so his wife could come up, and I thanked her for showing up. Uh, they took me in for an x-ray of my shoulder because that had been bothering me, and my neck. Well, the neck came from a CAT scan, but we'll get to that in a minute. Ironically, the thing that brought me in there, the head, was the thing that hurt me the least, and one of the last things addressed while I was there. Once I was in the CAT scan machine, they're like, "Okay, you have, between the x-ray and the CAT scan, they're like, okay, you have broken your neck." Now, don't be scared when you hear that I broke my neck. I'm fully mobile. I have almost full use of my entire body. My neck doesn't really wiggle, as you might expect. And due to my shoulder, that doesn't work, but the rest of my arm and my other limbs work just fine. So don't worry. Although the doctor who was telling me had misheard what was broken on my neck, and he basically said that the break you've got so bad that if you move wrong, you could be paralyzed. Because I had chipped a bone in my neck, and he thought it was on the back of my neck. It was really towards my esophagus. And when he found that out, because like I just talked to them, it's like, okay, it's the other way around. You're fine. I mean, you're gonna need to wear a neck brace, but you don't need surgery for it, and you're not in risk of paralyzation. So that's good. I'm actually in the third neck brace they gave because they put me in one in the ambulance, and then they got me a more comfortable one when I got there. And yesterday afternoon, maybe about an hour before I was discharged, they gave me another one and told me to keep the second one for showering. While I was in there, they also put me in a splint because it turns out I had broken my scapula, which is a shoulder blade, the shoulder bone. And that's when things got scary, because they informed me that the scapula is an incredibly difficult bone to break, and it requires a tremendous amount of force to even fracture it the way I did. And they were worried that it could very well injure my other organs, that I could be bleeding from my kidneys or something. And they told me that you're going to need another CAT scan. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And they're like, but we're going to need contrast. That means an IV. And I fought that for about half an hour. Not arguing with them, I basically told them to put it off. And my friend came in, because he actually came there in case a needle was involved, because he knows how bad I am with those. And I eventually decided that dying was far worse of a potential fate than getting a needle in my arm, so he held my arm steady and held my hand while they put the IV in, and he says that compared to what I could have done, I took it well, but I spent the whole time whimpering and crying because needles scare the shit out of me. But I took the IV, they took me back for another CAT scan, and it took an hour and a half probably to get my results back. By this point, I'd been moved to the emergency room. And the results basically came back that, yep, my scapula was fractured, but nothing else seemed wrong. Well, actually, that result didn't come until the next day, because it was decided that I might need surgery for either my neck or my scapula or both or whatever else could be wrong. Turned out nothing else was wrong. Before they put me in a room, they stapled my head, which, as terrified as I am of needles, you'd think staples would bother me, but they really didn't. And even when he had to use a needle to numb my head, that didn't bother me. Probably because it was my head, and even though it stung a little bit, I've had worse from the cats, And I trusted the numbing agent because I've had a boil lanced on my neck before, and I couldn't even feel the scalpel how good that was. So I knew with what he was using that I would feel the needle for a second, and then nothing. Although there was the side effect of me sitting up and down, so for him to do the stapling, it made me really woozy. So they wheel me into a room for a night. We find my keys. They were in a bag that was on my bike. The bike actually made the trip with me in the other ambulance. Because they send fire rescue and they send the ambulance. I rode the ambulance, the bike rode fire rescue. They offered to do that, by the way. I didn't demand it. I was fully prepared to lock it up and pick it up the next day or something. Because I was under the impression I would have been out of there before midnight. Turns out, no, I was there overnight, and my friend had to go feed the critters for me. Once I was in my room, there were no more tests. It was just me and my roommate, the guy in the bed over, who I feel bad for him. He was in so much pain, and they kept giving him pain medicine, but it wasn't doing shit. So he's like, "Can you give me a Tylenol or something?" And they couldn't because you can't overdose a patient. But eventually they got that under control, and he was able to relax and get some sleep, which was great. And he's like, "Man, I'm sorry." I'm like, "Dude, I don't begrudge you the amount of pain you're in." By the way, refused pain medication. Not because I'm a badass, but because I don't like the fact that pain medication can make you a little loopy, and I don't appreciate being loopy. And my pain was at a manageable level. I do not begrudge him If I could have ordered my pain medication and given it to him, I fucking would have. But I knew I would. That wasn't an option. And when I started to develop a headache, it turns out the only pain medication that was prescribed to me anyway was morphine. So I definitely didn't want that. I know what that does. You know. In case you're wondering, my roommate. Keep in mind, this is hospital roommate, not the one I live with. Fell out of a ladder while trimming trees from the hurricane, and like shattered his ankle and broke his back. So the ankle was fucking with him so bad. But towards the end of my visit, he was able to hobble around, get to the bathroom. He was able to eat finally because they decided he wasn't having surgery. By the way, my food there was great. I got bacon and scrambled eggs for breakfast, and they brought a bunch of other stuff that I didn't touch, like grits, 2% milk, coffee, which I would have appreciated the smell of, but that's about it. And then they came in and actually took my lunch order, which lunch was fantastic. Chicken tenders, French fries, and ice cream for dessert with some orange juice to drink. I ended up not getting dinner for two reasons. One, I was being discharged, and I didn't want my aunt to wait while I stuffed my face, and by that point, I had started throwing up. I don't think I lost any of the lunch, but all of the frickin' eggs came back up. And I didn't even get to the toilet in time, so the poor nurse had to clean that up, too, although I tried to clean some of it before she got there. But I ended up getting home around 5:30 and did not stop throwing up until around 11. I would go to bed, I would lay down, fall asleep for a bit, wake up, get up, throw up, and then pee, and then go back to bed. And I hadn't been eating or drinking anything, so I ran out of shit to throw up. So it was very unpleasant to puke. So I basically made myself drink water so that I'm at least chucking something up, and then I managed to keep some soda and a headache pill down. The headache pill would also get rid of the nausea, which it did. And then I was able to choke down a Swiss cake roll, because remember I had bought those from Walmart. And now I'm sitting here in a neck brace and a sling with staples in my head. I'm fine. I'm moving around the room, stepping in pretzels, because Willow's a shithead. She found my pretzels and tore them open. There's pretzels everywhere. I'll probably clean them up tomorrow when I'm more in less pain and able to bend over more and all that shit. But I'm fully mobile. I'm able to... Remember when I said my other arm is fine? The shoulder sucks, but from the elbow down is just fine. So I can still play video games. I'm playing Pokemon, typing on the computer. Probably going to be recording later, so that's a thing. I'm okay. I think in a week I go to get the staples out. Maybe it was 2 weeks. In 3 weeks I go for x-rays for my shoulder and I think the neck brace. They told me, I originally told my roommate 6 months, but I think they said 6 weeks I could expect to not have use of my right hand. Not total use. So no bike riding for me for 6 months. Which means I'm done with HeroClix for 6 months unless someone comes and picks me up. So... That being said, I'm still able to make it to Pokemon because I can do that on foot. It doesn't require me to use my right shoulder at all. So, that's a thing. I toyed with the idea of saving this for my weekly update, but it seemed more important to bring this up now, where I'm less than... I'm almost 12 hours removed from the hospital, because it's now 4 o'clock in the morning and I got home around 5:30, 6 o'clock, But I'm okay. They discharged me. There was no talk of surgery. I'm cool. I'm fine. I'm going to be sore for a while. I'm going to be in a neck brace for a while, and I'm going to be a sling for a while longer. But I'm okay. Thank you for listening. And the one thing that sucks is this puts off even further my attempts to get a job. Although I brought up, and I was thinking about it, my friend brought it up after I started thinking about it, that I should potentially sue. Because there's no reason that tree should have been there. Because this happened, I want to say Friday, because today's Sunday? Today's Sunday. This happened Friday night. The hurricane was over Monday. They had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, all day, to move that tree so that no one could be hurt by it. Haul it into the yard, have someone bring it away, that kind of shit. There's no excuse for that. And my roommate brought up that I could potentially contact FEMA over this too, because it was hurricane related. So we're gonna see Tuesday about a lawsuit. Because yes, my tendency to ride with my head down contributed, but in the shape my bike was in, there was nothing I could have done. Even if I'd had my light, even if I'd worn a helmet, the light wouldn't have revealed the tree. Even if my brakes had worked, I couldn't have stopped in time. And all the helmet, to my mind, would have done is prevent the tear in my skull, which would have actually been worse, because without that tear in my skull, I probably would have just gone home with a broken neck and a broken shoulder. I would have assumed that this was pain from the crash, and I wouldn't have gotten proper medical attention to it for 3 or 4 days. And who knows what it could have been like by then. That being said, I will try to invest in a helmet soon. But again, thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.